people have died.
Singer and comedian Oliver Tree was one of 6 people who died in a mid-air helicopter collision in Brazil on Sunday morning.
6 people boarded 2 helicopters on a clear Sunday morning in Rio de Janeiro. Neither aircraft was doing anything unusual. Neither pilot broke a rule on takeoff. And within seconds of each other, reaching the same patch of sky, both were on the ground, burning. One of the 6 was Oliver Tree, one of the most recognizable musicians on the internet, midway through the biggest tour of his career. By the time this video ends, you'll know exactly what investigators have confirmed, what they haven't, and why a routine flight over one of the busiest helicopter cities on Earth turned into a story that reached every corner of the globe. No speculation, no filler,
one of the helicopters crashed into
just what actually happened and what's still under investigation. If you want more fact-checked breakdowns like this one, subscribe now. This channel covers the full story, not just the headline. Who was Oliver Tree? To understand why this crash became global news within hours, you have to understand who Oliver Tree actually was. Born Oliver Tree Nickel in Santa Cruz, California in 1993, he built his early audience on Vine in the mid-2010s through an exaggerated character called Turbo, a bowl-cut, oversized clothing persona built on deadpan comedy. That online following didn't stay online for long. In 2016, he released his breakout single, When I'm Down, and within a year, he'd signed to Atlantic Records, converting internet fame into an actual music career. Over the next several years, he released 4 studio albums. His most recent, Love You Madly, Hate You Badly, dropped roughly 2 months before his death. Songs like Life Goes On and Miss You racked up hundreds of millions of streams, and by 2026, he was one of the most streamed and most visually distinctive artists of his generation. Part musician, part comedian, part performance artist, and impossible to categorize cleanly. That refusal to be one thing was the appeal. Audiences never fully knew where the character ended and the person began, and that ambiguity became part of his brand. By June 2026, that career had gone fully global. He'd played Coachella earlier in the year, and by June, his world's first world tour.
So when I set it up, my will is set up that when I pass, my family, no one's going to get a penny.
A run of more than 70 shows across 30-plus countries on all 7 continents had landed in Brazil. He performed in Sao Paulo on June 6, then stayed in Rio de Janeiro for a few days of downtime before the next leg. His next scheduled show was July 1 in Lisbon. In the days before the crash, he was posting upbeat videos from around the city. Nothing in that footage hinted at what was coming. Why Rio's skies are different. To understand how this happened, you need to understand Rio's airspace, because this wasn't some freak location for a helicopter to be flying. Rio de Janeiro is one of the busiest helicopter cities on the planet. Its geography, mountains, beaches, dense neighborhoods, and landmarks like Sugarloaf Mountain and Christ the Redeemer, makes helicopter travel part of everyday life, not a novelty. Sightseeing flights run constantly. Private charters regularly connect Rio to nearby coastal towns. On a clear Sunday morning, multiple aircraft sharing the same general airspace is completely normal. That's exactly the environment both helicopters were operating in that day. The 2 aircraft. 2 helicopters became central to this story, and both were legally registered, properly documented, and cleared for flight. The first was a Bell 206B JetRanger 3, registration PP MAC, manufactured in 1999. It was operated by a company called RG8 Aviation and was legally registered to a fruit trading company in Brazil, Turfic Comércio de Frutas Limited. Its owner, Oswaldo de Luca Filho, had previously been fined by Brazil's National Civil Aviation Agency, ANAC, in July 2025 after reportedly refusing to provide requested financial documents during an inspection. That fine, on its own, doesn't establish any connection to the crash. But investigators routinely dig into an aircraft's operational and ownership history as part of any crash review, and this detail has become part of that broader picture. The second aircraft was a Eurocopter HB350B Esquilo, registration PRDJJ, manufactured in 2012 and privately owned. Both are single-engine helicopters widely used for charter work and sightseeing tours around the world. Nothing about either aircraft on paper stood out as high risk before that Sunday. The Bell 206 departed from Angra dos Rios, a coastal resort town southwest of Rio. The Eurocopter departed from Jacarepaguá, an airport in the city's western zone. Both flights, according to officials, followed standard procedure from takeoff. Nothing in the documentation suggested their paths were about to cross. Who was on board? The Bell 206 was carrying 5 people: pilot Alexandra Souza, Brazilian music producer Lucas Frota, American musician Oliver Tree, Argentine director and screenwriter Lucas A. Vignale, and Argentine content creator Gaspar Prim Diaz, known online as Gaspy, who had built a substantial following of his own. The Eurocopter carried only one person, its pilot, Charles Marcillac. 2 aircraft, 6 people. A completely ordinary Sunday morning turned into the center of an international story in a matter of seconds. Before we get into the collision itself and what investigators are actually looking at, hit subscribe if you're new here. We break down stories like this with verified facts only, no dramatized speculation. Now, here's what
you can see here. One of the helicopters rapidly falls from the sky after colliding with another helicopter.
Here's what happened at 8:59 that morning. At approximately 8:59 a.m. local time, both helicopters were flying over Recreio dos Bandeirantes, a neighborhood in Rio's southwestern zone. On the ground, it was an unremarkable Sunday. Traffic moving, businesses open, a car dealership with rows of vehicles parked out front. Nothing below suggested anything was wrong overhead. Then the 2 aircraft collided. Mid-air collisions are among the rarest and most serious events in aviation. Unlike large commercial jets operating under constant radar-guided separation, many smaller helicopters rely on visual separation, meaning the pilots themselves are responsible for spotting other traffic and adjusting course. That system works the overwhelming majority of the time. When it fails in seconds, with almost no margin for correction. A nearby security camera reportedly captured part of the aftermath, showing one of the helicopters descending uncontrollably before hitting the ground. The footage spread across news outlets and social media within hours. Witnesses on the ground described the moments immediately after in stark terms. Fernandez de Freitas, a tire repair worker nearby, said he looked up and saw one of the helicopters already engulfed in flames. He also said he saw a passenger jump from the other aircraft before it hit the ground, an account that has been widely reported but not officially confirmed by investigators. De Freitas described the scene as terrifying and horrifying. There was no window for anyone on the ground to intervene before both aircraft came down. The crash site. The 2 helicopters came to rest roughly 100 meters apart, both landing on the grounds of a car dealership. The Bell 206 was heavily damaged on impact, and a fire broke out that spread across the dealership lot, affecting roughly 20 vehicles, a number of them electric. That detail mattered operationally. Lithium-ion battery fires burn differently than conventional vehicle fires, producing intense heat and hazardous smoke that complicates firefighting efforts. Most of the bodies recovered from the Bell 206 were burned beyond recognition, which is part of why identification took days rather than hours. The Eurocopter came down separately, found overturned, with wreckage scattered across a wide area, some debris reportedly landing on the roof of a nearby building. Rio de Janeiro's military fire department deployed roughly 45 personnel and 15 vehicles to the scene. A lane of the nearby avenue was closed for rescue operations. By around 10 a.m., the fire was under control, and crews shifted to searching for fuel leaks and clearing the area for investigators. By that point, there were no survivors. All 6 people aboard both aircraft were confirmed dead. Identifying the victims. Because of the extent of the damage, identification wasn't immediate. Authorities were able to confirm 5 of the 6 bodies relatively quickly. Oliver Tree's body sustained extensive damage in the fire and could not be confirmed at first. His name was on the passenger list handed to aviation authorities, but for 2 days that remained unconfirmed publicly. On June 16, 2 days after the crash, dental analysis confirmed Tree as the 6th victim. His father, Jesse Nickel, said he first learned of his son's death from a producer in Brazil who had been working with him. His statement was brief: "Peace be with Oliver. The family has no comments." The world reacts. Given Tree's global following, tributes came in almost immediately from across the music and creator world. DJ and producer Oliver Heldens, YouTuber and musician KSI, T-Pain, Robin Schultz, BB Rexa, Kid Cudi, Diplo, and Post Malone all posted tributes. So did Tree's ex-girlfriend, singer Melanie Martinez. Comedian and actor Whitney Cummings wrote that Tree was one of the most talented people she'd known, calling him pure love, and the best version of what an artist and person can and should be. Rapper BBN Dollar credited Tree as an inspiration. KSI's post noted that Tree was only 32, that he should still be here. Argentine streaming network Blender, where Gatsby had built his platform, posted its own tribute, thanking him for his creative work. Brazilian artists and public figures also offered condolences for all 6 victims, not just the internationally famous ones. The government of the state of Rio de Janeiro issued a statement expressing sorrow for the 6 victims and solidarity with their families. The investigation, within hours of the crash, Brazil's Aviation Accident Investigation Agency, CENIPA, the Air Force's Center for Investigation and Prevention of Aeronautical Accidents, was on site, documenting the wreckage and recovering key components, including both engines. Physical evidence from the aircraft is expected to play a central role in determining the cause. ANAC, Brazil's civil aviation authority, launched a parallel review, examining the certifications and operating status of both aircraft and both pilots. One detail from that review has drawn particular attention. Reports indicate neither helicopter was licensed to operate as an air taxi, a designation required for aircraft transporting paying passengers commercially. Officials have not confirmed whether either flight was operating in that capacity that morning, but it's now part of what investigators are examining, alongside how both flights were organized in the first place. Rio's mayor, Eduardo Cavalier, said hours after the crash that there were foreign nationals on board one of the aircraft, without specifying names. Fire Department spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Fabio Contreras said the situation could have been far worse given how close the crash site was to surrounding residential buildings. Brazilian police investigator Alan Luxardo said human error was a possible cause, and that police were working to determine whether responsibility fell on a pilot or on air traffic control. As of the most recent public reporting, no single cause has been confirmed or ruled out. Investigators are still working through security footage, available flight data, physical wreckage, and witness statements. Aviation experts have cautioned that a definitive conclusion could take months. In the wake of the crash, Rio State Deputy Claudio Caiado proposed legislation aimed at increasing transparency, monitoring, and penalties around private air operations in the state, a direct legislative response to how this collision happened in the first place. Separately, CENIPA has noted that Brazil had already recorded 84 aviation accidents in 2026 before this crash occurred, underscoring that visual separation systems for smaller aircraft, while effective the vast majority of the time, leave very little room for error when something does go wrong. Let's separate fact from ongoing investigation, because that distinction matters here. Confirmed: the date, location, both aircraft involved, all 6 identities, the timeline of the crash and emergency response, and the basic facts of both flights' origins and registration status. Not yet confirmed: the specific cause of the collision, whether pilot error, air traffic communication, or mechanical failure played a role, and whether either flight was operating outside its legal classification. Everything currently attributed to reports or witnesses in this video reflects exactly that. Reported and witnessed, not officially confirmed. When CENIPA and ANAC release final findings, some of what's currently unclear will get answered. Until then, treat anything beyond the confirmed timeline as part of an active investigation, not a settled conclusion. 6 people got on 2 helicopters expecting a routine flight over a city, where routine flights like that happen every single day. None of them landed. Whatever CENIPA and ANAC ultimately determine, that fact isn't going to change. If you want the update the moment Brazil's investigators release their findings, subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll cover it the same way we covered this. Facts first, nothing added.